Welcome into the Beat Sessions. I'm your host, Mitchell Weary. It's Friday, April 1st, and we're talking about the return of the Red Hot Chili Peppers and the return of John Frusciante again. And Rick Rubin is also back producing. This is a big event. The gang is all here working on Unlimited Love, the band's new studio album. It's their 12th and their follow-up to 2016's The Getaway. And love them or hate them, through all the ups and downs in their almost 4 decades together as a band, the Red Hot Chili Peppers have one of the best stories out there, in my opinion. I hope that VH1 reboots Behind the Music one day, and when they do that, I hope they extend and add to the Red Hot Chili Peppers episode, because it's a good one. But that came out in 1999. Wrap your head around that. Another solid 2 decades of history that this band has put down. And it's a pretty remarkable history. You look back on this band, and there's at least a half a dozen times when this thing should have just imploded. I mean, there's realistically no reason why this band should still be around, but I love that they are. And I love that about Unlimited Love, the energy on this record. There's this feeling of, hey man, we're back. We're still here. And there's plenty of gas in the tank, and we're going to keep on grinding this thing out for you guys. They talk about how productive the sessions were. And so I'm pretty sure there's going to be a follow-up record, hopefully more tours, maybe another record after the follow-up here. Who knows how many more records that they're capable of making. But I will say that, John Frusciante is in his early 50s, but the rest of the band is approaching 60. And you think about the grueling nature of touring in and of itself, and then the way that these guys put on a show, the energy that they exhibit. You can't do that forever. So I think that this is so special to fans because we're recognizing that time frame. It is pretty much a trip to think that these guys have been around for 40 years and they're at where they're at. But I love the dynamic on this record. I love the energy. You definitely can tell that these guys are having fun, and they're in that groove. They're at that best where, they always are when Frusciante's on guitar. They made great music with Josh Klinghoffer. They made great music with Dave Navarro. And you even think about Hillel Slovak, and I've heard people argue, and I like this argument. I'll make it myself because I kind of agree with it, that the Chili Peppers have always had 2 guitar players, that Hillel Slovak's, his influence to this day still works within the band. And, through Flea especially. Flea talks about, how if it wasn't for Hillel, he probably wouldn't have even picked up the bass and been in the band. And so that's pretty wild to think about, his skill and how good of a bass player he is, to think about how influential a guy like Hillel was on him so early on too. So I like that there's always been that funky dynamic in the band. And I always like the way that John Frusciante challenges it. And he does it in a way that it's like they're speaking 2 different languages, but communicating succinctly with each other. I think that's what makes John Frusciante so special with this band. He just is able to push the other players in a way that Klinghoffer and Navarro just weren't able to. One Hot Minute, great record with Navarro. And Klinghoffer, I really liked what he did with the band, but this just feels good. This feels right. This feels where the Red Hot Chili Peppers should be. And what I really like about this particular record, it's much more subdued than a lot of stuff that they've put out. I definitely would put it in line more with By the Way, more than anything that I've heard, but I dig the exchange of music between Frusciante and Flea especially. I mean, just the way that these guys are riffing off of each other. It just feels amazing to hear John Frusciante pick up a guitar again, to be completely honest with you. I think most of you are agreeing with me on this. And just some of the guitar work, some of the riffs, and some of the solos that he's laying down on this thing especially are just absolutely phenomenal. That, and I love that. So I always like to listen to the record and go back and, once I've listened, I'll read some reviews, but I like that everybody else is talking about this. I love it. John's backing vocals, that is such an important part of what he brings to the table. And I love the way he talks about it too. He talks about how important it is as well. It's almost kind of like its own art form in and of itself. And so it's great to hear those harmonies again between John and Anthony Kiedis. And, lyrically, Kiedis doing his thing. Definitely more of a vocal presence here. There's some moments where he's definitely getting old school rapping for you. But I dig the gentle funk that is carrying this record. I will say that, the Chili Peppers, they make long records like this. This is not out of their wheelhouse to throw out a 17-song album that has a 73-minute runtime, but it does feel a little long. If I have a criticism, I will say that this particular record doesn't maybe necessarily carry as well as some of those other longer records that they put out in the past, but that's not to say it's a bad record. I think the biggest thing with this, this new record is that it's going to take multiple listens. I've noticed that as I've gone back and listened to some of these other tracks a second and a third time, I'm starting to catch some more of the nuances. Again, more of that exchange between John and Flea. And I want to give Chad Smith his credit as well, because he's killing it on the drums. I love his presence. He's a remarkable drummer. I mean, just you think about all the players in this band, and I mean, not to compare them to Led Zeppelin by any way, shape, or form, but it's so. I love when you get a band where, I think of Cream as well, you just, where every player is arguably like one of the best in their respective position, and they come together and challenge themselves in incredible ways. This thing is it's an incredible album. I think you're going to enjoy listening to this if you're a hardcore Chili Peppers fan. Again, it's not going to quite have that energy and frenzied nature of some of that early stuff, but this is a band that I would say has always worn its heart on its sleeve. And, you know, the angstiness and, you know, the emotion of some of that earlier work, it came at a cost. It came at a very heavy cost. And so the lighthearted nature of this record, you know, there are reflections certainly on life and some dark stuff as well. But you can tell that this is a band that is in a good place, and that these guys are just happy with life and happy to be playing music with each other. Kicks off with Black Summer. Intro feels like an electric folk ballad a little bit. And then I love the way the song kicks in. Great bass as well. Obviously, every bass riff on this album is going to be amazing. But John's solo, I mean, coming right off the bat, just a great solo to start this thing off. Unreal. It reminded me of a kind of like a band like Love. Just a good classic rock feel. And that's what Frusciante brings to the table. Read about him and his guitars and all the guitars that he owns. I don't think he owns anything that's like before it's after 1970. Everything that he owns was made before 1970. I think that's a really cool thing that he does as far as his guitar playing. Here Ever After is your second song. Bear with me because we got 17 tracks to go. Love the funky, furious bass on this song. Definitely like the way that Chad matches it with the drums. And this song definitely reminded me by the way, honestly, just the way that bass comes in, especially. Aquatic Mouth Dance is your third track. Brings the funk. It's mellow. It's a little jazzy. It's got kind of a yacht rock feel as well. And this is where you can feel there's a lot of familiar territory here, but it's the nuances on this record, I would argue, as well, where you're getting that growth. And maybe growth's not the right word, but these guys just, you know, playing around and trying out some different things and just doing what they do best. Not the One is your fourth track. Awesome song. It's got just lovely airy guitars. It's just this great mellow jam. This sounds what it feels to escape, in my opinion. This is the song that roll down the windows, let the breeze kick in, throw this thing on. This is a great track. Poster Child is your fifth song. This is brings the funk. Kiedis brings the flow on this. Kind of a homage to We Didn't Start the Fire by Billy Joel. I feel like there's a lot of shout outs as far as pop culture and music, especially on this thing. So lyrically, a lot of fun. Definitely one of the funner moments for Kiedis anyway. The Great Apes is your sixth song. Another phenomenal bass line. Chorus explodes over mellow verses. Really like the guitars. And Kiedis, his lyrical territory, again, just talking about what else? The Great Apes. I'll leave you to listen to that, but pull up the lyrics. It's an interesting track to check out. It's Only Natural is your seventh song. Great instrumentation on this thing. Another mellow track. This mid-stretch as well, especially. I feel like it hits just a very nice, mellow, funky groove. These Are the Ways is your ninth song. Forgive me. Big, heavy riff on this thing. I like the hard rockin' nature of this song. It's got these mellow phases that it works in and out of, but definitely one of my favorite tracks on this record. I really like this song a lot. What You Thinking? More great guitar work from John Frusciante on this thing. Phenomenal. I would say it's probably one of the better songs that he appears on as far as his guitar work. Bastards of the Light. This song is covering some interesting ground, and I feel like maybe John is bringing in some of just a tiny bit of what he was doing with his solo work on this song. Talks about keeping those two projects very separate, not wanting to compromise them, but this is some interesting ground for the Chili Peppers to cover. Really like the electronic element. It's got this breezy chorus and like a nice acoustic guitar element as well. That's it goes great with the bass dynamic there. Excuse me, your 12th song, White Braids and Pillow Chair, is another excellent riff. It's got this just island feel, definitely. And these guys, they got stuck for a little bit during quarantine in Hawaii during the process of putting together these songs, creating this record. So it doesn't surprise me that This record is got a pretty overall mellow feel, but this song in particular, that island vibe definitely feels like Hawaii a little bit. One Way Traffic, is your 13th song. Funky, it's got this recitative lyric. Anthony definitely getting more into the hip hop flow of things. Doesn't happen often on this record, so when it does, it's welcome and it's definitely enjoyable. Veronica is your 14th song. Experimental, has 2 different tempos. Really like the way that they start playing around and doing some different things on the back end of this record, especially with the runtime. I would argue that is what helped keeps it engaging as well. Let 'Em Cry is your 15th song. Funky, it's the intro reminded me a little bit of maybe like Motown Marvin Gaye a little bit, and then obviously it kicks in and you get more of that signature Chili Pepper sound. The Heavy Wing is your penultimate track. This is probably the hardest rockin' track on the record. And progressive rock too is really, I feel like, the driving factor in this song. A little experimental. I dig the way that they kind of branched out and did some fun different things to keep this thing engaging. Leading into Tangelo, is your final song, and just a nice acoustic ballad to close this thing out. And welcome back, John. Really, it's nice to have you back with these guys. It's crazy to think that it has been 16 years. It doesn't feel like it has been that long. This is a great record. I think it's the type of record that you're going to need to listen to over and over again. It'll grow on you. You'll begin to hear more of those layers and textures. And that riff exchange between Flea and John is on every single song. It is so exceptional. And with every listen, I think you'll learn to appreciate what's going on more and more. So we're certainly going to vinyl please this thing. I hope you enjoy this record. I hope you find this review helpful as well. Please like this video, share it, subscribe to the channel, do all the things to help me blow this project up in 2022. Stay tuned throughout the week for more album reviews and have a hell of a weekend. And we will see you next time on the Beat Sessions.